Hello friends, today I am going to build a simple Tauri application using Rust and React. As part of today's demonstration, I am going to build a simple quiz application which can be used by kids for learning multiplication and division. If you click multiplication and division, in the right hand you can see the level of questions followed by a set of options. In case of division, currently I am explaining about division by 5. So this set of numbers or option will be generated randomly and kid can select a particular option. So if it is wrong or incorrect, it will be highlighted by red, or if it is correct, it will be highlighted by green. And below there is a card to display that scores, how many are correct and how many are wrongs. If you click on this division again, if you notice the scores are getting reset. In the next video, I'll show how we can integrate with Rust and save those information into a file as a JSON and read it from when we load it. So even though we close the application, we should be able to restore that scores. So this kind of pattern you can use for different use case as per your need. I assume you initialize a Rust-based application using Tauri CLI. So if you are new, you can watch my previous video. I given a little bit more detail how to set it up for the first time. Currently I'm using Vite to bootstrap a project. So I'm using React.js in the front end and Rust in the back end. By default is Tauri. And for the UI component, I'm using a Mantine UI component library to get some more UI layers like cards or radio buttons. So inside this Tauri application, source is a folder where you will have all the UI component, or for example React component, and source Tauri where the Rust component would be located. In this video, I'll mostly show the UI part. In the next video, I'll show how we can save the file into Rust backend. So currently I am using Mantine provider and dark theme. So I have set of features. So along with React, I use TypeScript, and I am trying to leverage different TypeScript features to get more type safety as well as auto completion. So if you see here, there are all our type annotation is given. So to organize my folder, I've created few folders. Assets I'm currently not using, but it can be used to store images or static assets. This backend is the code where it is used to integrate with the Rust backend. And these components have a features folder. Like I have 3 features: clock, multiplication, division. Specific to that particular feature set, I created the individual component. And I have a navigation bar section where I have created some action. To see, this is the navigation bar, this is the header, and this is the body. So if you see what are the features like clock or multiplication or division, so this should be rendered. And this is the navigation bar component. So in the types, I created a types folder. Inside that I have a index.ts. So I define like various interface. For the set of features, I currently using enum. Enum is a set of value, but at one point you can have only one out of those 3 or multiple option. Once you choose feature or clock, because in case of like this interface, you can have say multiple values. This is like object or map. So you will have clock, multiplication, corresponding 3 values at the same time. But features, if you have to give at one point of time, only one selection. And this is a index key operation. This is dynamically, this value will be located, and you can use like enum value which conjunction with numbers. By default it will start with 1 2 3, but I have used like clock multiplication division to make it more serialized and deserialized and better to communicate with Rust backend. So this is my structure looks like. Now coming to the application, so the features, currently this features is just a flag, like we have like clock multiplication division. Initially this flag I set to 0. This will help to render this particular component again and again. For example, if you by default, if you this 3 features is display, so initialize with 0. But once we click it, so each time in the right hand side the number is getting updated, right? So I'm generating a random number to pass to this particular component so that I can use in a reload depending upon the random number, which can be helpful for reloading this component again and again. I'll show you in a second that approach. And this upsell is a Mantine UI component which give a dashboard kind of view where we can organize our code better. So this is providing a kind of layout which looks a little bit application specific. So in this particular, this is a upsell completely. So we can have a kind of resizable, so this will shrink, so it will give a decent view. So in this upsell, this is like title bar, this is like nav bar, and this is the body. So in this nav bar, this is one more interesting concept I have applied. If you see, there is a nav bar component, but this component is not provided by Mantine. This is custom created by me. And also there is a bit of confusion over here. This nav bar component is also provided by Mantine, but I have not imported that. I have imported inside this nav bar. If you see this nav bar thing, this is pointing to my own local component nav bar. If I display over here, so in this case I have created this Mantine, I imported. So there is a 2 option. I could have used a different name for this nav bar, so which you can decide to use it. Then you no need to do special kind of namespace access the way I have done it. But I don't want to pollute my code into creating different kind of naming convention, which I feel a little bit messy. Your nav bar is a standard name, and I feel more comfortable to use it. And if you see, import star as Mantine I given, and wherever needed I trying to access Mantine.nav bar separated by dot. And also this you can refer this Mantine documentation to give some more property. It is quite standard. For example, width, height, and this is a section, the header, like features. This is what it will be displayed, and these are the individual features. If you see the section here, I can give the grow attribute. So that is meant for that you can have a variable number of features. And in these sections, if you see, there is a type I created like type to define this component, what is the input and what is the output it is expecting. This nav bar component will have only one particular attributes or parameter. So this is a call by function. So once a particular features is selected, whether it may be clock, multiplication or division, this function will be called from this nav bar. And what needs to be done will be handled in the app layer or app component. So if you see this in this nav bar section, we have simple button. This is like Mantine component, so which is a default variant or subtle variant, which will give this kind of simple look and feel. So you can choose a different style, whatever you feel like. So on clock, multiplication and division, so same button I've created. Once you click clock, on feature selected will be called with passing this feature dot clock. So once I could have used like string instead of enum, there may be a possibility of having a type error. But using enum, it would be type will be checked in the compile time. So there would be less bug in the runtime execution. So wherever appropriate, instead of using hard coding string, it is recommended to use enum. Now that is a simple neighbor component. And once we come to this app.tsx, so let me scroll down a little bit. Yeah. So once this feature selected is called, so this neighbor can be triggered by clicking any button. It will be clock, multiplication, division. So this is the only one function exposed by this neighbor component. So this particular app, once it is clicked, this feature will be triggered. This feature is enum type, so which will give an indication that whether it is a clock or multiplication or division. So in this case, because if you see below, this is the rendering logic. So if it is 0, double negation means 0 of double negation is like false. If there is any value, this corresponding component will be rendered. So at one point of time, this the data inside the features array will be 0 for two component, and whichever you selected, that particular component will have some random value. If you click on the multiple time, so the random value will be have changed to different value, so that the data will be refreshed again and again. So if you click it, so this random value will be generated again and again. Another particular value will be 0. That's why I'm saving this reset features. The reset features, if you see, this is defined in the beginning, so which is 0 for all the feature, and whichever the feature you need, this is like dynamic access with square bracket notation. So this will be dynamically understand the key part. So if it is a clock, that clock will be accessed by this one, and that would be measured at random. So once we set these particular features, this particular component will be rendered. And apart from that, there is a few more components. This is a simple header, only title is there, nothing else, and styles. So style, you can go crazy by changing lots of UI component layers, different part of it. But at this moment, I kept it simple. I set a background color to darker and front end color to set of gray. And let me show one component, division. So division will be, this particular component will be re-rendered each time the random value is changed or modified. So once it is modified, you always set this particular option selected to empty. Option selected will identify like to which particular option is selected out of 4. And there are a couple of set I have created. The first set is quiz option. This is an array which will store the data for those 4 different quiz option type. So in this particular use effect, so we have created this array. So which will have like value and label, value A, B, C, D, and it is like assumption, or I make an assumption into the code that this A entry would be always correct one. So that is where we store this result. And other values are randomly generated option. And I don't want to appear this A always first time, then it would be easy to guess. That's why I shuffle this array. So shuffle is this kind of this is an interesting logic. Once you can call a sort function to shuffle array, but inside that you can pass any callback. So callback I created is pass one random, divided by 0.5. So it will return to plus or minus. So this sort will happen randomly. In the shuffled array, I'll set in the option. And this particular, there is a radio group component I'm using and setting some couple of label, size, and this color will be set in below. I'll explain in a minute. This value option selected is, whichever the option it is a control, it will make it is a control element. Once you don't set to empty each time, then the previous value result will be, persist. Just to refresh or reload the page, you have to first, whenever you loading the page first, you have to make it empty. And if you are success, you have to set this color to red. If it is success, you would set to green color or teal color. If it is a fail or wrong answer, you have to set is a false or red color. So once we change this radio buttons, then this on change will be called with a value. This value is a string. In this case, it is not event type, and this particular on change handler is provided by the Mantine UI component library. So this is a radio group component, which is a kind of wrapper for this radio UI component layers. So whenever you change, you check with A. If it is A, you mark it as a teal color. If it is false, you mark it as a red color. Then I set the count here. Again, I am spreading this count. I am whichever the value it is wrong, it is available. I am just saving it again, so it won't reset the value. If I only assign correct count only, then it may reset this incorrect count. So the spread operator will, if you have like 10 field also into that object, it will copy all this 9 field and only one particular field will be modified. So in this particular example, incorrect, I am copying in this part. I could have easily write incorrect, but the spread operator is a nice syntax. And correct, I am accessing the correct value and incrementing by 1. Similarly, if you see, this will copy this correct attribute key and value, and incorrect value I am changing. This kind of reverse way or toggle logic. And this is the displaying this option value. So options is an array we have like 4 different attributes. So we are looping through it and setting this key, value and label. And the below is to show the cards, how many characters, how many wrongs. So if there is a count is initially set to null. If null, then this won't be displayed. If it is it contains some value, it will be displayed with some correct and incorrect value. So I am using some kind of random function here. This is a bit of logic. Random number from 1 to 10. And I am giving a array here because if one option I have generated one time, then I don't want to generate the same option again and again. So this is just to create a unique random number. Otherwise, all 4 options will be repeated. So just to make this all option unique, so I am using slightly bit more involved logic here. There is a while loop involved. If it is already included, then it will generate again. And currently this particular thing is hard coded to 5. Slowly I'm planning to create a setting page where I want to ability to change from this 2 to 10 and some other value. So this can be automatically generate some different numbers. That can be externalized easily. So this is all about like UI component layer, and in the next video I'll try to explain how we can save the data into the file system using Rust, so that even though we close the application and open it again, we can able to show the scores from this file system and it will be persisted. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day ahead. Bye bye.